You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's July the 22nd, and from the Legacy420.com news, you're watching Psychedelics Cannabis educational news found here at paceradio.net. Good morning, Rev Sydney. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing this morning, Al?
Oh, not too bad, other than a last-minute phone call just before we went live. I'm doing good. Yep. And yourself?
Yes. I'm doing well. My grandson was here last night to sleep in the van with me, so we slept out in the Westphalia, and it was a good time.
Nice.
Movies and sleeping in the van.
And probably nice and cool compared to being inside a house at this time of year.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, no, it was beautiful.
Good.
Yeah, I'm on the air, buddy. I'm talking to my friend Al.
And you have your grandson's present. Say hi.
Hi. He's hiding.
Is he? All righty. What do you say we get at her?
Sounds good.
All right. First story's up.
Coming to us from StratCan, federal government responds to edibles petition.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a while, so it's good to see that something has come out in the news. It says here, the federal government has provided a response to a petition tabled earlier this year calling on an increase of the THC limit for edibles from 10 milligrams to 100 milligrams. The petition was launched in November 2023 and sponsored by Liberal MP for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast Sky, Sea to Sky Country, and that's Patrick Wheeler.
Yes, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions and Associate Minister of Health, Yara Sachs, posted a response to the petition on July 17th, noting that the 10 milligram THC limit was established to protect public health and safety and was supported by the recent expert panel report on the Cannabis Act. The limit draws heavily on lessons learned from and the limits established by U.S. states that have legalized cannabis, says the response in part.
Now, it doesn't say anything about any science. Health Canada is currently carefully reviewing and analyzing the report and its recommendations. It continues. The panel's findings will help inform Health Canada's ongoing efforts to improve the operation and administration of Canada's cannabis control framework.
Health Canada recently proposed many changes for federal cannabis regulations, which did include a proposal to remove the cumulative 10 milligram THC limit for an outermost container of edible cannabis products to allow greater flexibility in packaging multiple immediate containers as long as the immediate containers do not have more than 10 milligrams of THC each. Many in the industry, though, have noted that unless there is an allowance for less onerous immediate packaging on those edibles, the change likely won't result in any cost savings for producers or consumers.
Do you understand what they're talking about there when it comes to these packages and outer packages?
Yeah, so what they want to do is they want to say, okay, well, you can buy 10 milligram edibles, but they each 10 milligram edible has to be packaged in its own package. So you would have 10 packages of gummies in a package. Correct. So you open up a package, you pull out a package, that secondary package has your 10 milligram edible. Yeah. So you still have to eat 10 edibles to get your
Correct.
100 milligrams, and you still have to open 10 packages to get your 100
Yeah,
milligrams.
yeah,
But you can buy them all together.
you can buy it all together, so you can buy more than 10 milligrams. But yeah, and that's where they want to reduce the required packaging on the inside. Like people are asking about that because basically it's a lot of duplication.
It is. It is. And I mean, I understand if you want to take it a step further for now until, they feel comfortable, but you should just be able to buy a bag with 10 gummies in it and have them each be 10 milligrams in one bag. They're done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Putting more plastic with it really doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Exactly. All right. Now, how come that's not going back on the stage? There we go. Back up on the screen. The original petition noted that both the Canada Competition Bureau and the Ontario Cannabis Store have called upon Health Canada to increase the THC limit. Industry has argued for years now that 10 milligrams edibles hamstrings its ability to directly compete with the illicit market, with consumers being enticed by higher THC products at a much lower cost, while other categories of cannabis products like dried flower, concentrates, and vapes have become increasingly competitive with the illicit market in terms of price. Edibles remain one of the biggest advantages available to the legacy market.
In an interview with StratCan in 2022, Christina Clark, who is the CEO of Songies Development Corporation, which operates a provincially licensed cannabis retail store on Vancouver Island, said she knows that edibles remain one of the main drivers of demand in the legacy market. Although legal products in nearly every other cannabis product category are competitive with the legacy market in terms of price, quality, and variety, edibles lag behind. And let me add, lag way behind.
Yeah, exactly. She goes on to say that, excuse me, if people are going to go to the black market because the product they want is not in the regular market, then if it's a product that's safe, we should be able to sell that in the legal market and not have to leave it as a product that's available only in the legacy market. Yeah, the reality is anybody who's an edibles user knows those doses are really quite low for somebody, especially if you're a regular user of edibles. Your tolerance is such that some of these edibles barely do anything. I'm waiting for the market to catch up with what the customers want.
I never buy edibles from the legal market. My dad did for me one time though. And it was really, really interesting because I have a tolerance of about 150 that gets me, I really, really feel it. And he brought me home 2 10 milligram edibles and I got high like it was 150 milligrams.
Wow.
So somebody screwed up. Oh yeah. Somebody screwed up somewhere. Yeah. McLean, who is the co-owner of Calix and Trichrome's Cannabis and the executive director of Normal Canada, says she agrees with the idea of opening up the limit to at least allow producers to sell more than 10 milligrams per package, even if the potency on individual servings stays the same. 10 milligram is fine for a suggested serving, but edibles should not be 10 milligrams per pack, McLean tells StratCan.
Yeah, she was. We had her, Genoa, on the Pace Radio show when she first launched the petition that was sponsored by the MP, because this was done through Normal Canada, and I think they had somewhere around about 4,000 names were submitted in the petition. It only required 500, so it's good to see that she's happy with to see this result, so people can buy more than 10 milligrams in a package anyway. So, she goes on to say that in other regulated markets, the limit per package is not as restricted as if it is in Canada. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas, and I was able to get edibles that had many 10 milligram portions per bar or box.
Yeah. Customers mostly get confused, excuse me, about the price per milligram, which seems expensive, and the quantity limit, continues McLean. Unregulated edibles seem half the price for 10 times the potency, and that's very true. Canada's 10 milligram potency limit was in part informed by feedback from states like Colorado and Washington that legalized cannabis for non-medical purposes several years prior to Canada. When these states initially legalized, they had very few restrictions on edible potencies and saw a lot of problems with people consuming too much, increasing emergency room visits and other health and safety concerns.
These states have since imposed such more strict standards, with some only allowing 10 milligrams or even 5 milligrams of THC per serving, but still allowing much more THC to be in a package. Colorado, for example, has had a 10 milligram per serving limit in place now for several years, but allows up to 100 milligrams per package. Now is the time to review this area, says Ben Goldenberg, CEO of Organigram. They go on to say that maybe it was fine at first, the idea of starting low, but we can now see that after 3 years, which is because it came in later, we are unintentionally keeping the illicit market active in this area because we are not providing equivalent legal options to consumers.
Yep. A lot of people make their own now because they just can't get what they want in the legal market. So they'll still buy legal cannabis, but now they'll make their own butter and go from there.
Yeah. Well, it looks like that his last line there is basically what the government has gone and done. And he says at the end, if you could do a 100 milligram package and you could have 10 milligram pieces in it, isn't that better?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So there you go. So if everybody, just so you know, it's more than 10 milligrams per package now, which is great. It's a start. You know, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Slow but sure.
Yeah. All righty. Next story.
Coming to us from Ganjapreneur, public comment period for federal cannabis rescheduling ends today.
Yes, today the Department of Justice has proposed moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act, a change reflecting its widely accepted medical use and revised views in its abuse of potential and dependence risks. This potential proposal aligns with recommendations from the Department of Health and Human Services submitted last year. Public response has been robust, with over 37,000 comments submitted so far. The public comment period will close on July the 2nd, which is today, providing 3 more days for individuals and organizations when they wrote this. So it's done. You got to get her in today, folks. In today.
Yeah. Yeah. If finalized, this change would subject cannabis to Schedule 3 regulatory controls, which are less stringent than those for Schedule 1 substances. However, existing cannabis-specific regulations and criminal prohibitions under the CSA and the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act would still apply. The change would also not explicitly change anything for state legal cannabis markets or for people currently incarcerated for cannabis-related convictions. Yeah, the DOJ has invited the public to submit comments electronically through the federal rulemaking portal at regulations.gov by referencing docket number DEA 1362. Alternatively, paper comments can be mailed to the DEA at their Springfield address, but electronic submissions are encouraged. It streamlines the process. All comments received will be part of the public record and accessible online.
Geez, it'd be nice to be able to read those, wouldn't it? See how that all turns out? Well, we know how the end result's going to be, but this proposed rescheduling marks a pivotal moment in federal cannabis policy, potentially easing restrictions on research and medical use while maintaining regulatory oversight. Stakeholders have until midnight tonight to submit their input and contribute to the historic decision-making process. And there's even a link there on this story where you can click on and go ahead and do that. So you can find that just for those people wanting to know. You can do that right on the Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational Facebook page. That's where you will
Yes.
find the
Yeah.
story.
And I believe that is, of course, American USA residents only.
Yeah, I can concur with that. I can agree. Be nice if more of us could be involved, because really the rescheduling, there are some benefits, okay, but it's still illegal. People will still get arrested. The benefit I
Yep.
look at it is this T280E tax thing, and then the fact that they can start doing some research.
Yep.
But yeah, it's still gonna take a while. So see what happens. Just takes time, I guess, as they always say. All right,
Takes.
on to the next story.
Oh, giddy. Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Cannabis is more effective in treating you. Starting to laugh already. Well, try again. Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Cannabis is more effective in treating musculoskeletal pain than traditional medications are. Patients say in new study.
Sorry. More than 1.1 in 5 patients who go through orthopedic surgeons with chronic. I told you it would be within the story. Musculoskeletal pain are using or have used some form of cannabis to manage the pain, according to a new study published this month. Of these, almost 2/3 said they felt cannabis was very or somewhat effective, while more than 9 in 10 said it was at least slightly effective. Now in the research, they say, quoted here, it says more than half, 57%, claimed cannabis to be more effective than other analgesic medications, and 40% reported decreasing their use of other medications since starting cannabis use. And adding that only 26% reported a doctor recommended cannabinoids to them to treat their MSK pain.
Oh, we get letters for it now. Notably, among those who said they use cannabis to manage pain, the most commonly used cannabinoid was CBD, about 39% of them said, followed by a hybrid of multiple cannabinoids. That's about 20% of them, and almost a quarter of them said they were unaware of their cannabis's composition. Must just work. Further, among patients who were not cannabis users, roughly 2/3 said they were interested in using cannabis to manage their pain, but reported barriers to use, such as lack of knowledge regarding access, use, and evidence. And they're also worried about the stigma. Although stigma was, contrary to previous research, not the primary concern this time.
The paper published in the Journal of Cannabis Research didn't seek to definitely determine whether cannabis effectively managed the MSK pain symptoms. Future double-blind and placebo-controlled trials are required to do that, it says, but instead intended to examine use and self-reported efficacy, as well as potential obstacles to use among patients who are non-users. The study was co-authored by 6 researchers from the University Health Network, Sunnybrook Health Services in Toronto, Canada. The 629 participants were adults 18 and older with chronic MSK pain who were visiting the orthopedic clinic at Toronto Western University Toronto Western Hospital, University Health Unit, for a first-time consultation with orthopedic surgeons.
So MSK must be a foot pain, is what I am gathering here. I was wondering what it was, right? Of the 23% of patients who said they have never used cannabis to manage their MSK pain, 72% said it was part of their current treatment. The most frequent modes of use, meanwhile, were ingestion of oils, smoking, and then vaporizing. While there were some commonly reported side effects, dry mouth, fatigue, and a lack of motivation, about 2 in 5, so that's about 40%, said they experienced no side effects.
Oh, that's good. Many users indicated cannabis effectiveness in treating other symptoms, the study adds. Primary sleep disturbances at 44%, anxiety 26%, And headaches at 18%, although 43% said they experienced no relief of other symptoms. Let's see what it says. Over 85% of cannabis users perceived it to be effective in managing their chronic MSK pain, improving their sleep and anxiety-related symptoms. Oh, good. As for where the patients obtained cannabis, many reported using multiple sources, including a dispensary or compassion club, that's 43%, a Health Canada licensed provider at 34%, and from a friend or a relative at 33%.
Interesting. Despite the self-reported relief that cannabis users say the substance provided them, researchers also found that people who use cannabis also suffered more pain and a wider array of other ailments. But they stopped short of attributing those issues to cannabis use, instead suggesting that patients with a broader range of issues might be more likely to seek out cannabis as an alternative or additional form of relief. It is noteworthy that cannabis users exhibited a constellation of comorbid conditions, including a higher prevalence of depression and pain, an increased number of painful bodily areas, longer pain durations, and more frequent visits to pain clinic specialists when compared to non-cannabis users. Authors wrote, this observation prompts us to consider the possibility that cannabis use may have arisen as a response to elevated levels of pain and dissatisfaction with existing therapeutic modalities. It is possible that the significant proportion of cannabis users turn to cannabis to seek relief from their heightened pain burden and depression and anxiety, which appears refractory to conventional treatments.
Furthermore, we observed that cannabis users, despite experiencing greater pain, tended to employ a broader array of medications, such as muscle relaxants, opioids, and antidepressants, in comparison to the non-cannabis using counterparts. This may also highlight that cannabis may have been sought as an alternative means of pain management, especially in situations where previous therapies yielded suboptimal results. Reinforcing that possibility was that one of the strongest predictors for cannabis use was having symptoms consistent with chronic pain syndrome, suggesting that patients with chronic MSK pain are possibly unsatisfied with conventional treatments and seeking alternative pain management. I can see that.
Yeah, the strongest predictor, however, was whether patients previously used cannabis recreationally. It was found that previous recreational cannabis use was associated with more than tenfold increase in the odds of using cannabis to manage chronic MSK pain, which the study says. And it calls that finding unsurprising, and as current cannabis use has been shown to strongly influence one's perception of risk, stigma, and acceptability.
Oh, I can see that, yeah. Authors acknowledge that some of the perceived effectiveness may be due to a placebo effect, calling for more double-blinded, placebo-controlled trials going forward. The new research also cites past studies that found approximately 46% of patients felt more comfortable discussing their cannabis use with their physician after legalization. I'm sure they did. And that 86% of orthopedic patients that were characterized as cannabis users stated they would be willing to stop consuming cannabis if the surgeon stated it would adversely impact their surgery. Yeah, there is a concern I know there is a concern about being sedated for surgery and cannabis.
There is.
Yeah,
I'm a chronic cannabis user. I've been using it for pain and anxiety and depression for years. And surgeries that I have, the anesthesiologist wants to know, because they actually use a different anesthetic for people who use cannabis, and they use a little bit more. So as long as they know ahead of time, they can make, choices that will better work for a cannabis user.
Correct.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Yep. Go ahead.
These observations, is that where I am? Yes, these observations highlight the dire need for improved oversight and regulation of the medicinal cannabis industry, the Toronto authors wrote. The MSK pain study comes on the heels of a federal research meeting in the U.S. that brought together representatives of federal agencies to discuss the use of cannabis components to treat pain, with a special focus on minor cannabinoids and cannabis terpenes.
Oh. A federally funded study published in May indicated that terpenes could be potential therapeutics for chronic neuropathic pain, finding that an injected dose of compounds produced a roughly equal reduction in pain markers when compared to a smaller dose of morphine. Terpenes also appear to enhance the efficacy of morphine, which, when given in combination. Unlike with morphine, however, none of the studied terpenes produced a meaningful reward response. The research found indicating that terpenes could be effective analgesics with no rewarding or dysphoric side effects. So
Another recent study,
Yeah.
Another recent study published in the Journal of American Medical Association found that most cannabis consumers use the medicine to treat health issues at least sometimes, but very few consider themselves medical cannabis users. Less than half the patients who used cannabis reported using it for medical reasons, even though the majority of patients reported cannabis use to manage a health-related symptoms, authors wrote. Given these discrepant findings, it may be more useful for clinicians to ask patients what symptoms they are using cannabis for, rather than relying on patient self-identification as a recreational or medical cannabis users.
There you go. Oh, what's this? It's an ad thing. They say here that this aligns with another study that found that this type of cannabis use is clinically under-recognized. And without specifically screening for medical use, clinicians may not ask, and patients often do not disclose their use. Separately, a recent study of cannabis consumers by the company NugMD found that about a quarter use of cannabis is used to manage their pain.
Okay.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, when I'm sore and stiff all over, like yesterday, last night, I consume more cannabis.
Yep. If I have been triggered heavily, if I have a depression, if I have hurt my back, if I, have strained muscles, cannabis consumption goes up. And, a friend of mine talk once in a while, when your body really needs it, you don't get those psychoactive effects nearly as heavily.
It's going to use.
Yeah, because your body is taking it and your endocannabinoid system needs it.
Yeah. All right, on to the last story before we go to break. And this is one I didn't expect to read as a headline, but go ahead.
Yeah, coming to us by On-Site, psychedelic therapy and its impact on police officers and the profession.
Yes. Yeah, I went, wow, okay, go check into this story. Okay, they say this article is based on research conducted as part of a CA Post Command College. It is a future study of particularly emerging issue of relevance to law enforcement. Its purpose is not to predict the future, rather to project a variety of possible scenarios useful for planning and action in anticipation of the emergency landscape facing policing organizations. The article was created using the futures forecasting process of Command College and its outcomes. Managing the future means influencing it, creating, constraining, and adapting to emerging trends and events in a way that optimizes the opportunities and minimizes the threats of relevance to the profession. Oh, and I see it's written by a police officer, so go ahead.
Yeah, by Lieutenant Paul Van Meel. Police officers are exposed to hazardous environments and dangerous people, and injuries happen. Of all forms of injuries, physical ones are the easiest to observe, diagnose, and treat. From a social and cultural perspective, particularly within the law enforcement, they are an informal rite of passage. In this context, X-rays, MRIs, braces, and casts are akin to physical evidence at a trial. They indicate the injuries are real, earned, and most important, need professional medical treatment to heal. Pardon me. This contrasts with injuries to the mind. Mental injuries are perceived and evaluated by subjective, often differing standards. Historically, police culture has been much more accepting and forgiving of physical ailments than mental ones. To a degree, this is a byproduct of the survival-related component of the job. An officer cannot allow themselves to break down and let their emotions impede their reasoning, especially during high-risk situations. They must remain stoic, controlled, and decisive. Clearly, these traits are important. This dichotomy, though, has unintentionally played a role in perpetuating a culture that is largely unhealthy for the expression, social acceptance, and treatment of mental health injuries.
Officers train hard and often on what to before and during critical incidents, but very little on what to do afterwards. As with the physical ailment, the more trauma added to an initial injury, the more the damage is compounded, the harder it is to heal, and the more it impacts other areas of the officer's professional and personal life. As a result of stressors and the rinse and repeat professional life of a police officer, the number of officers with PTSD is estimated to be as high as 35%. This does not include those struggling with clinical depression, anxiety, and addiction, or unknowingly working with their way towards PTSD, nor does it capture PTSD's impact on the organization and profession. Without intervention and healing, there is a spiraling relationship between the officers, his or her chronic difficulties, and the repeated exposure to further critical incidents, which then perpetuates the cycle at an increasing tempo and pace.
Stigma persists, and officers may feel shame in seeking out mental health treatment. A 2021 study identified that law enforcement officers have a 54% greater suicide risk compared to civilians. Another study showed that officers suffering from PTSD have disruptions in rapid decision-making due to heightened arousal to threats, inability to screen out interfering information, and inability to keep attention. Symptoms of PTSD, depression, and alcoholism are often observable, including absenteeism, medical retirements, leaving the profession before retirement age, low morale, disgruntled and defranchised officers, impaired decision-making, familial problems, divorce, anger management issues, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and suicide. Today, there is a groundswell of social, political, and financial support for alternative approaches to mental health treatment to combat illnesses like PTSD, depression, anxiety, and addiction. One approach has been repeatedly proven to be effective, yet it comes with a significant social stigma, especially from the law enforcement perspective. Given the severity of the consequences of untreated and unmitigated mental health issues, the alternatives warrant consideration and further study. One with great promise is using psychedelics to treat trauma.
There are many contemporary clinical trials, psychedelics such as MDMA, psilocybin, and LSD, aiming at qualifying and quantifying the benefits of psychedelics for treatment of illness, and the results appear promising. As of 2023, there were more than 200 clinical trials in process. This trend is likely to continue. MDMA has been around since the early 1900s, but was largely introduced to the medical community in the 1970s as a potential tool for psychotherapy. In 1985, the DEA banned it, declaring it as having no medical value and a higher abuse potential. This eventually changed. In the 1990s, it was studied again to discover whether it could aid terminally ill patients with pain management. Since then, there have been a resurgence in interest in MDMA. Trials have continually shown it significantly aids people who combined with psychotherapy, particularly those with PTSD. According to one group of researchers that studied the pharmacological mechanism of psychedelics, not only were the effects of MDMA on PTSD symptomology robust, but they also appear to be extremely durable, lasting for at least 1 year after treatment.
Mm-hmm. Psilocybin and LSD are currently being studied for treatment for depression and addiction. A 2021 study noted psilocybin-assisted therapy produced large, rapid, and sustained antidepressant effects in patients with major depressive disorder. Ketamine, another psychedelic, is already legalized as a medication for treatment-resistant depression. Although ketamine is the only legal hallucinogen being used in a clinical setting, this is likely to change as this field is gaining significant attention and momentum. Other hallucinogens in clinical trials include ibogaine, ayahuasca, and DMT, all of which appear to show promise in the treatment of addiction, anxiety, and depression. Perhaps the greatest difference between psychedelic medications and traditional psychiatric medications is that psychedelic use is not intended to be extended, as is the case with modern medications. Instead, psychedelics are confined to a few uses, all while under the care of a psychotherapist during a psychotherapy session. And having talk therapy before and after is really what's important with all of these hallucinogens.
Yeah. Just seeing where you just ended, and I'm not seeing where you just ended.
A flawed bill is vetoed. So, the paragraph before that, yeah.
Okay, okay. I was looking for that last word. Yeah, they say that in 2023, California Senate Bill 58, authored by Senate Scott Wiener, aimed to legalize personal possession of psychedelics by January 2025. On the California Senate website for SB 58, Wiener said California's veterans, first responders, and others struggling with PTSD, depression, and addiction deserve access to these promising plant medicines. SB 58 has prudent safeguards in place after we incorporated feedback from 3 years of deep engagement with a broad array of stakeholders. While the bill said there would be established guidelines for how to best use psychedelics, it lacked any defining rules and advocated for the legalization of personal possession and use of psychedelics. It was not signed into law by the governor. Yeah, it was vetoed. Yeah.
The California Narcotics Officers Association, the CNOA, posted a statement on their website when SB 58 was vetoed by Governor Gavin Newsom. We are excited to announce that SB 58, which would have legalized the psychedelics, was vetoed by Governor Newsom. This is a calamitous bill of this legislative year, putting Californians at risk. There's 2 studies cited by Wiener in pushing for SB 58, the CNOA said, concluded that psychedelics may produce positive results only under carefully controlled conditions and are not ready for widespread use. The ongoing debate over legalization is expected to continue, with stakeholders extending beyond politicians, advocates, and law enforcement into the corporate boardrooms of pharmaceutical companies whose financial benefits could be in the billions.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the time and how long this story is. It's quite lengthy, but it's I brought it up as a story for today because of the fact that we're talking about the police officers, and the police officers were talking about, hey, we need to look at this as an alternative, and it's not something that you would expect normally out of police officers.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be good to bring that story up today, but unfortunately, it is really lengthy. Now, it is posted at Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational's Facebook page, so you can read the whole story there. And why don't we just go to break?
Sounds good.
All right. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection. We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from, the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Camelford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Camelford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Camelford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back from our medication session, and we're having an awesome day.
We're having an awesome day.
Alrighty, here we go. Next story's up.
Coming to us from KOSU, Morning Edition. Oklahoma court rules that moms who use medical cannabis while pregnant aren't breaking the law.
Now, before I get into the story, is it against the law in Oklahoma to have cannabis? I don't know what the laws are. We'll find out as we go into the story. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals urged the legislature to change the law to allow pregnant medical cannabis card holders to be prosecuted for child neglect. Women with state medical cards who use cannabis during pregnancy can't be prosecuted for child neglect. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals has ruled last Thursday.
Good. Amanda Aguilar has been waiting nearly 4 years for the ruling. She was charged with felony child neglect in Kay County in 2020 after her son tested positive for cannabis at birth, but fought her charge. A single mother of 5, the case has caused her endless worry and to lose job opportunities as well, she said. I might have actually laid down if this had been a fight over any other thing else, Aguilar said Thursday after learning the court had ruled in her favor. But because it was over my kids, that was a reason I just don't give up.
Aguilar's case was first featured in the 2022 story by the Frontier and the Marshall Project. She used medical cannabis to treat severe morning sickness during her pregnancy. Aguilar had a doctor-approved state license to use it, and her son was born healthy. But the hospital reported her to child welfare workers, who handed over her baby's drug test results to police. The ruling sets a new legal precedent in Oklahoma, where a growing number of women have faced child neglect charges for using cannabis during their pregnancies, even when they have a license from the state to use it legally.
Aguilar said she's glad the decision will make a difference in the lives of other mothers facing criminal charges. The Frontier and the Marshall Project reported earlier this year that most women who are prosecuted are too poor to afford their own attorneys, and that the cases hinge mostly on information gathered by child welfare workers. Most women accept plea agreements in exchange for probation. There's so many moms that are going to take these charges just because they're terrified, Aguilar said.
The court ruled that it does not condone cannabis use for pregnant women, but it's legal in Oklahoma. Goes on. Now, the presiding judge, Scott Rowland, wrote in his decision that, in the majority's opinion, that for us to find that Aguilar's cannabis use fully authorized by her medical cannabis card became illegal due to her pregnancy would require us to rewrite the statutes in a way we simply do not think is appropriate for the courts to do. The court urged the legislature to consider changing the law to allow women to be criminally charged.
Oh, so yeah, he can't complete the charges, but he believes in them.
There's no charge there, but you should create one.
Yeah. Two judges dissented, arguing that Aguilar's unborn son did not have his own medical cannabis license, and that it was not the intent of voters or the legislature to allow unborn children to be exposed to the medicine when they passed medical cannabis laws. But if she breastfeeds, he's going to get all the cannabinoids. We produce them in our breast milk. Aguilar's case was one of at least 5 in the past year that Kay County judges threw out after defense attorneys argued that medical cannabis is illegal in Oklahoma and that the women, hadn't committed a crime. Kay County District Attorney Brian, Hermison has prosecuted dozens of women in his district for child neglect after they used drugs during pregnancy, many for using medical cannabis.
But yet there's no law against it. So where'd they go with those other cases? Hermison's appealed Aguilar's and another woman's case, arguing that the mothers broke the law because their own unborn children do not have their own separate license to use medical cannabis. So, do you charge a fetus in a car accident or just the mother?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get on to the next story. This one is coming to us from Strachan. Go ahead.
Yeah, coming from Strachan. Cannabis Farmgate store in Victoria moves one step closer to reality.
Yeah. Cannabis Farmgate store in Victoria has moved one step closer to becoming a reality because the Victoria Cannabis Council has voted to support the application of the Victoria Cannabis Company Cannabis Farmgate store at 340 Mary Street in Victoria West.
In a 7-1 decision, council voted to direct staff to advise the BC Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch of their decision to issue the producer store retail license, which is Farmgate, to the VCC, which is awesome.
Yeah, they are an organic grower. Go ahead.
Yeah. The approval will still be subject to the company's compliance with the city's bylaws and permits. The city is requiring the VCC to build a sidewalk adjacent to the facility, which is located on the Galloping Goose Trail, a multi-use trail on a former rail line through the city.
Yeah, the Victoria Cannabis Company first filed its application for a Farmgate store license in early 2023. The company's application passed third reading shortly by September 2023, with council sending it back to city staff to address concerns with the location. BC retail cannabis regulations require an approval from local council before considering approval of the application.
In the most recent staff report approved by Council, it was noted that there was no significant concerns about community impact in storefront cannabis retail at the application's location, that the location would have minimal community impact, and that there were no concerns from police. The report did not have ongoing concerns with odor associated with the store's adjacent cannabis facilities. The possible future Cannabis Farmgate store is located at VCC's production facility, which is currently home to a nursery, 2 micro cultivation sites, and a standard processing site.
Yep. The provinces began accepting applications for producer retail stores back in November 2022. The program allows micro cultivators, standard cultivators, and nurseries to sell their own products in the retail cannabis store at their own production facilities or sites, as well as an array of products from other producers. Only one such license has been approved since then. Shakeup in Salmon Arm, which was licensed in August of 2023. The province has also licensed 2 similar ones in similar stores, one in Williams Lake and one in Chilliwack, under special arrangements with local First Nations called Section 119 agreements.
A third farmgate application is also making its way through the municipal process in Pitt Meadows currently. More than 100 licensed cannabis facilities could theoretically be eligible to apply for such a farmgate license. Some BC cannabis growers say the low number of applications indicates a policy failure, citing concerns with the nearly $10,000 in licensing and application fees and additional costs associated with BC's retail cannabis regulations.
Yep. Kip Rowe, VP of Brand Development at VCC. He's the fellow that I interviewed. Was Kip Rowe. Yep. He spoke with Strat Can at an earlier date about the application. Says their goal is to create a dynamic storefront that can show off not only their own unique cannabis products from cannabis grown on site, but also other craft producers in BC. VCC's location is near the ENN Rail Trail, a popular bike path. Rowe says, "We are very excited at the opportunity to be among the first potential production and retail store locations in British Columbia. What sets us apart from the other locations is the amount of frontage traffic we have in Vic West. We are not located in an industrial park on the outskirts of town. Our store is just minutes from the seawall in Lime Bay and has the potential to become a tourist destination."
Absolutely. Our goal will be to focus on British Columbia producers as well as featuring our own flower grown and packaged on site. Now more than ever, small provincial craft producers need an opportunity at the retail level to showcase their products. With all of the pay to play for shelf space and the discount retail chains, more and more small producers are getting edged out by large corporations. We want to be able to tell BC's rich craft cannabis story, and we feel this new Farmgate store will give us the opportunity. Rowe tells StratCan that he and the VCC team are excited to move forward with the project. They estimate that their sidewalk will be completed in the coming weeks.
Good stuff. Good to see.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah. We did that interview quite a few months ago, so I can't remember it all in detail because there's been a lot of them between then. But they also supply a company with product for their raws as well. So
nice.
Yeah. All righty. What do we got for time? We still got a few more minutes. We can still get some.
We do.
Yeah, this one involves a lot of money. Here we go. It's up.
Yeah, coming to us from cannabis.net, $1 billion in cannabis sales in just 182 days. Illinois voters send clear message to the feds about cannabis legalization.
Oh yeah, people going to spend that money. They're voting with their money, and they're walking to those stores. And yes. $20 million in 12 days is how recreational cannabis first got started in Illinois in 2020. Now, the trend in Illinois is shocking the local and federal government. Governor J.B. Pritzker of Chicago claims that on July the 1st, 2024, retail cannabis store sales in Illinois toppled $1 billion. This sum compromises around $150 million for medical cannabis, and about $850 million for adult consumption. Remarkably, this achievement occurred almost 2 weeks sooner in 2024 than it did in 2023 on July the 10th, when the $1 billion threshold was attained. Furthermore, cannabis sales increased to almost $2 billion in fiscal year 2024 from $1.9 billion in 2023 and 2022 and $1.8 billion in fiscal years 2022. Holy smoke.
So just so you know, Illinois people are Illinoisans.
Yeah.
Illinoisans are spending $5.5 million a day on cannabis.
Wow.
Yeah. Illinois has the most equitable cannabis industry in the country, probably in North America, and it's growing and thriving, stated Governor J.B. Pritzker. The increase in overall adult use cannabis sales, along with our administration's measure to benefit areas impacted by the war on drugs, demonstrates how this beguiling business is assisting us in setting a national standard for equality and economic justice. Growing sales in 2024 indicate that cannabis tax income will continue to play an important part in resolving decades of injustices in the state's criminal justice system. Illinois consumers made 81% of purchases by value in the first half of 2024, compared to 19% made by out-of-state users, according to data from the Cannabis Regulation Oversight Office. Product breakdown: 22% were consumables, 32% were vapes, 49% were cannabis flower.
According to Eric Johnson, the Cannabis Regulation Oversight Officer, more cannabis businesses opening means more unique products for consumers to choose from. We welcome these new opportunities for ownership and employment to support individuals and communities across the state in undoing the harms from the war on drugs. The official sales numbers do not include any of Illinois' legacy market sales. That's just all the legal stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm okay. I got it. The official sales number is to not include any of Illinois' black or illicit market cannabis sales. Tax revenue from cannabis sales has generated over $244 million in, R3 grants for economic development, violence prevention, and youth development in disproportionately impacted communities across the state. This revenue also enabled the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to establish the Illinois Cannabis Social Equity Loan Program, connecting those historically impacted by cannabis arrests and imprisonments with opportunities in the legal cannabis industry. To date, nearly $22 million in forgivable loans have been issued to socially, equity craft growers, transporters, and influencers. There will be further changes soon. Until April 2024, applications for foreign forgiven loans for social equity adult use dispensing groups were accepted as long as businesses fulfill the licensing standards. Conditional licenses selected in the 22 and 23 lotteries will get additional full dispensary licenses from the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, which currently has 218 licenses for dispensaries.
Removing obstacles is essentially to guarantee that our labor force and sectors accurately represent the diversity of Illinoisans, stated IDFPR Secretary Mario Tretro Jr. We are already seeing the results of our efforts, and I am excited to see what the future holds for the cannabis industry in Illinois. With all those sales and all that tax revenue to help with other things, it looks like it's doing good. On July the 1st of 2024, Illinois became the first state in the cannabis industry to reach $1 billion. This incredible accomplishment came 2 weeks earlier. It almost sounds like a repeat of the above stuff. Yeah. All right, let's cut her down. We'll cut her off right there. I'm looking at the time too. But it's good to see Illinois is, their sales are increasing, and then they're over that 1 billion. Like, it's the state. It's not a country. Oh, you're
I was
muted.
muted for a second. $5.5 million a day U.S. in that one state.
In the one state. And, I didn't look at it as a state that would be, I didn't look at them as a state that was a cannabis friendly state,
Yeah, so that's like $7.5 to $8 million a day Canadian for that small little state. So that's like saying Toronto is spending $8 million a day.
Yeah, because how many people are in Illinois? I could just see that. Like you said, your example of Toronto may be that. Just so you know, good day, Daryl.
Hi, Daryl.
All righty. Well, anything you got to say? Want to say?
Have a great day. I'm going to go hang out with my grandson for the afternoon.
All right. Well, hey, I'm off to the dentist. Hey, now lucky. All right. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, LimestoneCityHydroponics.ca, and @ease.ca. And thank you to our viewers for tuning into the broadcast. Other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.